The wood chip debate. Should you, could you, in your garden? Well, let's give you some worm food for thought. How much wood should your wood chip and your wood chip in your garden?
What? What?
Oh, to the how much wood would a woodchuck chuck? How many chips should your wood chip? Hey everybody, welcome back to Renewed Homestead. Ben, Denise, Whiny Boy, and Zozo. Anyway, all right, so we are standing next to a smaller pile of wood chips because we've spread some of those out in our garden, and there is some debate whether you should be using wood chips or shouldn't you be using wood chips. And what do you think?
Well, we use wood chips. Let's get into why we use wood chips and why we think it's good for most gardens.
All right, we're inside the garden now, and as you can see, we have a good layer of wood chips down, and there's several things about it. I mean, you know, when we were scooping it up, there were a lot of worms in here, which is awesome. You know, if you go back, you'll remember we had several piles of wood chips brought in by the utility company when they were chipping stuff up. You know, check that out. If you've got a big garden, that might be a good opportunity for you. If it's a small garden and you're inner city, you can buy bags of mulch at your hardware stores.
Most of the time, no. Most of the time, cities will have areas where they dump wood chips. You can check at the universities or local colleges as well. Oftentimes, you can actually get them for free.
Yeah.
Or you could even check out if there's a sawmill near you. Find out if they have wood chips that you can pick up. Do not use sawdust. Use wood chips. We'll go into why we don't want to use sawdust. But
yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, so when these were delivered, they were hot. They were actually hot composting themselves. We could see the steam rolling off those piles. And as that cooled off, that's when the worms started moving in, which is awesome to see. You know, scooping that up, dropping it down here, that's just more worms in our garden. You know, who doesn't need more worms in their garden?
Yes. And so what we've done is we've had the chickens in here. We're getting to a point where the chickens are going to be out because as we've laid this down, as you know, they're just going to make huge holes and dig under.
But they're pooping.
But they're pooping, yes. And we're going to talk about some of the pros and one of the major cons of wood chips and why people are scared to use them. But let's just go over some of the advantages of wood chips and why we use them not only in our garden but also in our food forest.
Yep, let's do that.
All right, so as you can see here, the soil is actually holding on to moisture. So one of the main advantages to wood chips is that it's going to hold in moisture. And last year we actually had a drought here and we were not getting a lot of rain. And the wood chips actually helped keep the soil moist. It also prevented evaporation, which allowed the plants to grow. We didn't have to water as much. And one of the main advantages too is it will actually prevent soil compaction. So as those plant roots grow, they're going to grow stronger and it's going to make for a better plant.
All right, so not only is it good for moisture control, but it also acts as an insulator. In the winter, we have a nice thick layer of these wood chips and it'll keep the soil warmer. And the reverse in the summer, it keeps it cooler, it keeps that sun off of there, allows those roots to grow nice and strong and helps the soil stay conditioned and absorb the nutrients. It helps the worms work their magic under there because worm castings or worm poop is amazing stuff. So the more worms we can get in here and the more advantage we can give them, the better. Okay, so we've got that moisture control, we've got the insulation factor. Not only does it do those things, but that thick layer will snuff out weeds. It doesn't allow light to get in. the weeds can't germinate, and if they do, well, that's also another reason why we have the chickens in here, because they'll scratch through, and those little seedlings look mighty tasty to them, and they'll scratch them right on out of the ground for us.
Yes, and another reason to have chickens is we did have some bean beetles and potato beetles. They're going to go through that they lay dormant in the soil over winter, so they've gone in and scratched in and eaten those bugs.
Hopefully, and break that cycle.
Exactly, exactly. But another thing that wood chips can do, oftentimes you might have soil-borne diseases for whatever reason. There might be a fungus or something living in the soil. So what the wood chips do is will prevent that, because what happens is as you water your plants or as rain comes down, that soil basically splashes up onto the plant. The wood chips will actually stop that from happening and can actually prevent some of those soil-borne diseases.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? Who wants that kitty in the window? Who is that kitty in the window? What's that song?
How much is that puppy in the window?
Well, how much is that kitty in the barrel? All right, now another advantage of wood chips is as these break down, they're going to add nutrients to the soil. Just as Ben said, he found all these worms in. It's going to actually feed the worms and other soil organisms and microorganisms. So that's one of the reasons if you look at a forest, and I'm looking over there because that's where a forest is, everything goes from the top down, right? So you have leaves, you have wood breaking down, you have fallen trees, you have all of these things that go in to feed the soil and create really healthy soil. And that's one of the things we're mimicking here by bringing the wood chips in. We're mimicking how nature does it in the forest, which is all part of permaculture.
We're just expediting it by helping it.
Exactly.
All right, just as it can help with moisture control, it will also help with erosion due to rain or whatever. When we had all that rain last month, you saw out in our chicken area, around their chicken house, it was a muddy mess. So we threw those wood chips down, and you know what? It took care of the issue. And where we don't have a large slope here, which why would you have your garden on a slope unless you had to? We don't have to worry about that here, but the wood chips are definitely good for erosion control on your roads, the chicken area, wherever else you might need it.
Yes, and those wood chips, as you know, the chickens are in the area where we're putting our dent corn because they were scratching up grasses, getting their poop down, getting some nitrogen down. Those wood chips will go through and prevent those grasses from coming back up, but it's also going to continue to feed the soil in the area that we're actually getting ready to move them soon from that area to another area, yep. Utilizing them, chicken is the chicken, as Joel Salatin says.
That's right. Not exactly a mobile chicken coop, but
we're working on that. We're working on that.
We built it to be mobile.
Yes.
Because when we built it, we didn't know where we wanted the chickens. And
exactly.
It's worked out really well because we have wanted them in other areas. So
yeah, and we're working on a different mobile chicken tractor.
Well,
so
we're going to have to.
Yes.
That's another video in itself.
Yes, but let's talk about the cons.
The cons?
The cons.
I didn't know we were talking about DC today.
All right, so let's talk about the cons. And we're not talking about politicians right now. But a lot of people are afraid to use wood chips. And one of the main reasons they're afraid to use wood chips is it steals nitrogen from the soil. That is actually true. That's actually a valid concern. So one of the things that you can do to combat this, because there's a lot of benefits when it comes to wood chips, but nitrogen is critical, especially when you're growing nitrogen-heavy feeders like corn. But one of the ways that you can prevent this is to add nitrogen to the soil before you put your wood chips on. So as you've seen, we have our chickens in here, planted cover crops. We have our chickens in here. We're adding sheep poop. We've added rabbit poop along with the chickens. You can also get organic blood meal. That is a really great nitrogen addition to your soil. I would stress the organic part of it. But you can put down a layer of nitrogen poop. And if you don't have livestock like we do, you can find somebody typically that has donkeys or horses or sheep or cattle, and just ask them if you can take some of their, as Billy calls them, DC politicians, their poop, and you can lay that out as well to get nitrogen. Just make sure that they don't worm their animals. That's kind of critical, because what happens when you worm your animals is that's still in the poop. It gets into the ground and it actually can kill the beneficial worms that are in the soil.
And let us not forget, you can always put down comfrey. You can chop and drop.
Yes.
And soon it will be available on our website as well.
Yes, but comfrey doesn't necessarily fix nitrogen as well as some of the other things, but nitrogen is a great fertilizer and you should be using it. Everybody should be growing comfrey. It will be coming up soon and it will be available on our website. So that was a really great point. Great fertilizer, but just add some nitrogen down before you put the wood chips down, and that takes care of the nitrogen issue. And if you have nitrogen heavy plants like corn, add some blood meal in with the corn seed, just a little bit in with the corn seed, and then spread a little bit on top. Done. Takes care of that. Now the other issue we've heard is that it can change the acidity. You know, I suppose, I mean, it's possible it can change it slightly. But if you're starting with good, healthy soil, that really should not be an issue, and that's not something that we've ever had an issue with wood chips. Remember, we're mimicking nature. So in nature, you're going to have animals that are going to be pooping, they're going to be dying, they're going to be breaking down into the soil. So you want to mimic that. So just have a nitrogen source before you put the wood chips down, and that will take care of the nitrogen. Remember, wood chips are carbon, and it's going to take up a lot of that nitrogen from the soil as it breaks down. Like we said, add some nitrogen, you're good to go. All right, so one more quick point. Can you use sawdust? Yes, but the thing with sawdust, it's going to break down really fast, so you're going to have to continuously reapply it. And because it's breaking down at a faster rate, it's going to actually take more nitrogen from the soil. So we actually recommend doing the wood chips over the sawdust. Can you use sawdust? Absolutely. Just keep those things in mind.
Yeah, use it sparingly.
Yes, I mean, it's just going to be a little more work for you. If you don't mind that, by all means.
Yeah. And if you have access to it, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, just like I said, it breaks down faster. You're going to have to add more, and, you know, it's going to take up more nitrogen.
Right. All right. Well, hope you found this video helpful, and let us know if you're using wood chips or if you've resigned yourself to not use wood chips. It's starting to rain, so we better wrap this up. Anyway, all right. Well, again, hope that you found this useful, and let us know if you've done wood chips or whatever, and
what your experience has been with it.
That's it. And remember, we do occasionally post to Instagram. I'm trying to get better at that, but we post our videos to Rumble. We post them on our website, renewedhomestead.com, and that's where our shop is as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that about covers it. Make sure you're putting a thumbs up and subscribe to us, and please pray for us and pray for the nation and this world. We all use a little prayer these days. So
yes, and our thoughts and prayers are still with East Palestine, Ohio.
Yes, Ohio and the surrounding areas.
Pennsylvania, West Virginia.
I think as this goes on, we're going to find it's a little worse than what it's appearing at this point. But anyway, keep praying. Anyway, take care, everybody. God bless. We'll see you on the next video.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.